on its scale compared to other species. That's significant because, again, it's not only human concerns that you have to be accounted for. Human growth intrudes on non-human habitats. We're in the middle of a mass extinction due in no small part to climate change caused by fossil fuel consumption. Building the oil terminal increases the consumption of fossil fuels and requires a massive investment in the fuel itself, an expansion of drilling, fracking, and exacerbating that same climate change. It incentivizes an increased population and the consumption of resources of the region.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah. So we have to change our policies that affect the economic, technological, and ideological structures that really refer back to this consumption of oil. In the short term, we suggest you deny permission for the oil terminal, and in the long term, we would suggest that we invest in solar, wind, and other renewables rather than fossil fuel, and overall decrease our energy dependence. There's no reason to be consuming as much energy as we have right now.
Okay, so the ideological change will focus on appreciating life quality rather than consistently increasing standards of living. So policy changes, just like we just referred to, like focusing on wind or solar energy rather than fossil fuels don't pose any threat close to that of the oil industry. And solar arrays and wind farms have an extremely small physical and environmental footprint. And solar and wind energy don't rely directly or indirectly on the destruction and exploitation of other species, also including humans, like oil fields in the Midwest that basically have caused residents there that live near the fracking sites. Basically, the water is flammable. They can set their water on fire. So that's clearly not good for humans and not good for other species as well. And also, we have to change our direction on energy dependence, and which will lead to a higher quality of life. So if you believe in any of the following: the value of human and non-human life, the value of species diversity, and humans should not exploit other species for useful gain, fossil fuels basically. Human institutions are too expansive on the threat to the environment, so that's climate change basically, and that a change is needed to protect the health of this planet. So down there I put Exxon Valdez and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, just as two examples, probably the most well-known. Even though Exxon Valdez, there are about 50 other oil spills that are much worse than Exxon Valdez that have occurred. And basically the Deepwater Horizon, I know this side, the pro-TSOT Savage group, have mentioned multiple times about the safety practices that are being placed. Well, safety practices were in place during Deepwater Horizon, and the industry basically destroyed the Gulf of Mexico. So if we continue down this path, it won't be a matter of if, but a matter of when. And Governor Inslee, we apologize, we won't be able to provide you with a hefty sum of money, but our viewpoints and our motivations can provide yourself, your children, and your grandchildren with a safe environment that they can live and flourish in. So Deep Ecology urges you to deny permission for the TSOT Savage Oil Terminal. A vote for TSOT Savage Oil Terminal is a step in the wrong direction.
That those were not ours. Do you guys have any more members that would like to speak?
So we have
more community members who are going to be speaking now.
Did you guys bring food too? They couldn't afford it.
I feel like vegan.
But I think Katie can stand on her own. So.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we have one more person to testify, and then we'll start with some questions and answers. Okay?
We would like a time to rebuttal.
Yeah, we'd have
Oh yes. Okay.
Don't worry.
You got all day. All right. We have plenty of time.
You had your turn.
Yep.
If you
For a
want
long time.
Oh, in comparison, definitely.
Okay, Katie, go ahead.
TSOT Savage is arguing that Earth exists for the use of humankind. They have argued that the proposed oil terminal will boost the local economy, create jobs, and provide the oil modern society needs without foreign dependence. A deeper look at this proposal shows how superficial and reckless their thought process is. Tesoro Savage has applied for a 10-year lease. Any benefits will be short-term, however consequences could be irreparable, locally and globally. Under Vancouver Energy's plan, 360,000 barrels of oil will be transported through the Columbia Gorge each day. This will dramatically increase the risk of severe harm to our waterways and fisheries. The Columbia River is home to a substantial number of endangered or threatened species. Each individual species is a remarkable evolutionary achievement. An enlightened society respects these evolutionary achievements and stops itself from doing things that threaten them. When species go extinct, we lose the chance of learning from it and deepening our understanding of life. Beyond the benefit to us, each species and genetic lineage holds intrinsic value and innate right to continued existence. Human gain, short-term interests, and economics are not as important as the integrity, stability, and beauty of our waterways and ecosystems. A myriad of ecosystems in this fragile wilderness will be put at risk if the oil terminal is approved. Like the species that inhabit it, each ecosystem also is a holder of intrinsic values, and we have obligations to respect these values. At a global level, Earth and its climate systems also represent remarkable achievements that humans are obligated to protect. Increasing carbon emissions, or even just facilitating emissions at their current rates, will only contribute to destabilization of Earth's climate systems, putting humans and all life at risk. Oil terminals also lead to loss of less tangible values, such as spiritual values, aesthetic values, and scientific values. Tesoro Savage seems to have little regard for human life and none for non-human life. They seem to care only about short-term profits. The more scientists discover about evolution and ecosystems, the more we can see how interconnected all of life is. Humans don't just rely on Earth. Humans are a part of Earth. The river, the air, the fish, these are not things to be exploited. One goal of enlightened governance is to increase the happiness and long-term well-being of the citizenry. We would be better served by a government that encourages people to make ecologically minded choices. Humans have the opportunity to choose how to interact with the world, and these choices reflect our character as a species. The qualities that cultivate a good character, like sympathy, generosity, curiosity, imagination, intelligence, humility, also lead us to treating life with respect, maybe even reverence. Our waterways, salmon runs, and remaining wild places have deeper value than any of the benefits that could be gained by approving this terminal. For a society to be considered healthy, it has to care for its water, land, air, and wildlife. Governor, I urge you to do the right thing for the right reasons and deny permission for the oil terminal.
All right, I believe Vancouver Energy's executive officer.
Excited.
Yeah, well, Governor Inslee, you've heard a lot today. You've heard us, be accused of a lot of things. And first of all, we don't believe that all human expansion should be limitless. It should be done correctly and within reason. It should be backed up by scientific knowledge about our place in the world. And if you have heard from some pretty out there thinkers as far as the human condition, but if you look at science, if you look at Bart Collicott says that a thing is right when it is a matter of scales, and that our project today is within that matter of scale. The jobs that will be created here in Southwest Washington are going to be created somewhere else. They could be on the end of a pipeline, who knows where. But we have the opportunity to decide if those jobs come here. That's the only choice we have. And if you've been on a college campus in the last 10 years, you have heard, no, seriously, you guys, if you've been on a college campus in the last 10 years, you have heard a lot about the word privilege and what privilege means. And I'd like to just take a minute and consider what type of privilege it takes to imagine a world that is without humans. All right? Now consider that. And that there's people with real needs out there. There's people in this community that actually have to go out and work. And you know what? There already is a railroad. There already are these structures, these invasive forces that, you know, I don't know if we're just going to blow everything up. Do you want anarchy? Do you want society to go away? No, we have done everything in our due diligence so far in this project, and the steps necessary to legally, we've gone above our duty to fulfill those needs so far. And I hope that you will consider the rest of the facts here that we have to discuss from my co-CEOs. Thank you.
So, in this time, I'd like to be realistic. About 2 or 3 of you guys were there. So, many of you claim to be down to earth, but when you take an objective view of a home, it's not realistic. You ask, what will we do when we don't change the environment? What will happen to those families down the road? Well, what happens when we leave them homeless? They don't even have a chance to have a family, maybe 1 or 2 generations down the line. These railroads exist already. That's realistic. You want to remove them and do all that? Stop using us as a platform for that and try to change things without going through us and using us as a stepping stone. That's a lack of foresight. We will continue to have to use these fossil resources, and we're going to get them out eventually. Not us necessarily, but other people down the line. And that's going to cause the same problems down the road. And unless we support research that helps make that a better place down the road, then we're already going in the right direction. We're trying to share this with the community, those that are homeless, those that need to get to that next generation down the line.
Okay, I would like to take a moment to address a number of assumptions listed in your very eloquent counterarguments. One of the first assumptions that I noticed is the assumption that employees cannot be trusted and educated correctly on their jobs, basically. That, first of all, that's a major insult to Oregonians and Washingtonians, that they can't be trusted to do their job properly. Second, that's ludicrous and that makes no business sense. Why would we not train our employees? That just...
It's bad policy and it's bad culture. Bad culture, not what we stand for.
The second assumption that's being made is that at some point or another there will be a spill. I would like to point out that Tesoro has been around since 1968 and we have never had a train derailment. That's right there. So taking BP and Shell and World Fuel Services and saying, well, they have spills every 2 years, and saying, obviously you will too, just makes absolutely no sense because we're not even the same company and we don't even have the same environmental regulations as they do. Ours are much better and our track record since 1968 has shown that. The third assumption I would like to address is the idea of short-term profits. Okay guys, this is a 40-year project. What about 40 years says short-term?
4 years.
Sorry.
Speaking of 0.5 generations.
Yeah, possibly 2 generations.
Sorry.
The fourth assumption is that, that we should be investing in renewable infrastructure rather than oil infrastructure. You know, that's an excellent, noble goal, and I totally agree with that, and Tesoro does have plans in its future, starting 2020. We are looking into renewable energies and green energy conversion. However, the reality is you need the oil infrastructure in order to build renewable infrastructure. None of those turbines in Eastern Oregon got there without petroleum. Okay. So yeah, all I really have to say is great arguments, but they're based on a lot of assumptions. And really, guys, enlightenment is not the fear of innovation, which you seem to be proposing. We, on the other hand, are taking concrete efforts to not only provide jobs for our community, but we're also doing so in a way that has proven to be economically and ecologically sound.
Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go. So I'll stand for you as well. Like you said correctly and within reason, obviously, and within science and range. Science clearly is showing thus, though, 99.9% of all scientists are saying that we are already out of reason. There's no benefit. There's no reason that not doing this project does not put any of these jobs at risk, does not put any of our oil consumption at risk. It only adds more risk. The jobs that it does add, those are jobs that are endangering other jobs. It's a not net profit of jobs, it's a loss. If you take it out over 40 years, we have spills, we have disasters, we have things that cause more problems than it actually does solve. So, thank you, but your logic is out of sense.
Did you happen to hear the fact about the fact we've never had a train derailment?
I did. I would also like to say a couple things and kind of bring it home, I guess, for the environmentalists a little bit. I think that the environmentalist perspective is longer than 40 years, or since 1968. I didn't do the quick math, 60 years on that. So it doesn't make sense to me that the short term is being characterized as 2 years or 1 or 10 years. In my opinion, the short term is human existence, and as an ecological consequence that we have determined, and what we've talked about is that we have diminished so quickly our biodiversity and the health of our ecosystems that 40 years is a speck on that. And that to say that is long term, I just don't agree with that. And furthermore, I just kind of want to encompass the whole argument and compare it to the tragedy of the commons that Garrett Hardin wrote about. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Garrett Hardin assumed and looked at what was going on in agriculture, and he saw that, you all share the pasture, yet I have 5 animals and you have 5, and it benefits me the greatest to add 1 more, but yet my 6 animals are eating more than your 5. And so I compared Soros Savage to Garrett Hardin's tragedy of the commons, and how we already are using so much, but this next step, this 1 more marginal benefit, quote unquote, is going to have such a marginal cost that it's not marginal at that point, it's exponential. So I just implore you guys to think about that, and to think about how, if done correctly, you say that we're going to, in 20 years, cure this problem of pollution, and we're going to cure this. And that's, in my opinion, putting that on the next generation. And I think a lot of what I've heard today is from both sides our right to continued existence and our human productivity and moving everything forward. And so I hard pressed to say that this is progress when you are detrimentally impacting and putting a problem that could put us in extinction, or at the point of extinction, with our next generations. I just don't think it's sustainable, and I think that when you really stop and look about it and think about the tragedy of the commons and think about the impacts that this will have 1,000 years from now to your children, anywhere in between, there will be more effects than just 40 years. So I implore you guys to think about the long-term effects of the terminal.
What privilege, I'd like to say, to even pass on to your children, like literacy, things like that you can talk about that, like it's such commonplace. When there are people that are impoverished and just living in these societies that just encourage unemployment because that's all they can get. Are you denying those people that opportunity that you are capitalizing on, basically?
I would like to say something to the environmental community. I was expecting a little bit more, honestly. You guys have a lot of reasons. No, you guys have a lot of, you're coming at this, and I'm trying to understand all these different perspectives, all these different philosophies and reasonings, and it just doesn't seem like a very united message. It doesn't really make sense to me. what do you guys actually believe in? Because you know what, over here, we believe in a clear core values, and we believe in a vision of people, okay, and something that actually makes sense.
Great.
And we believe in long-term sustainability.
Oh, exactly. What you're talking about. So, you know, I implore you guys, like I said, to think about the tragedy of the commons and just think about how many people you're affecting and who's benefiting from this. Is it the CEO panel? Are you benefiting the most from this, or is the real community? You talk about 1,000 jobs. I don't know the population of Vancouver off the top of my head, or the population of.
Wait.
I do not know, because I have not done the research on that physical human aspect, because I'm more concerned about the entire community and what our point is, including what benefits us.
So those 1,000 people are in the community.
So, Robin, you lived in Portland your whole life.
Several million.
You're down there at Southwest, just a few blocks away, right? So you live in Portland, and you're sitting here telling what the people of Vancouver what they should do. I live at 201 East 19th in Vancouver, Washington. Governor Inslee, I am a citizen of your state, and you represent me and not this person over here, this outsider, okay?
Wow.
I don't want these outsiders coming in and telling us what to do in Washington and in our community.
I totally respect your opinion. This is something that does affect everyone in the Tennessee River Basin, not just Washington. So it's a great responsibility upon the governor here. It's something that's greater and bigger than just
his constituents,
than just Vancouver. It's something that impacts the entire world.
I do have another question for you guys too. So Tesoro, the oil company, is proposing to run approximately 36 trains to the gorge. How large is your largest operation to date now before this?
Ooh, it's going to be probably the rail from Winnipeg to. How do you look that up?
And how many trains does it support?
It supports about 120
No.
Yearly, daily,
monthly.
monthly?
So would this proposed oil terminal be larger than any project you've done before?
It would be on par with some of the projects we took over from BP.
And when you took over from BP, did you include any of the faults or problems that those lines had in your historical data?
Absolutely not. This is a different company with different culture.
The reason we took over from BP is because they were having so many safety problems that these were becoming assets that they physically couldn't handle anymore.
How do we know you adequately solved those problems? We have no proof.
I'm curious if you accuse these other companies and how you train your employees so much better. So are you displacing the job?
And then I never insinuated that you weren't training your employees properly. I was just hoping to make the point that everyone who, whether or not it gets approved or not, is working in that location should be educated on the environmental factors that go into it.
We're trying to grant people.
And I would just like to ensure that everyone is. So,
Yes,
good.
and
We're including you in this process. That's why we're here today.
No, you didn't include us. We're legally allowed to be here.
We've had a public comment period that occupied 3 months that ended in January. We have had many steps and many forums where we've had outreach with the community and community members. We have done our due diligence. If this is the first time that you've ever heard of this project, then you are clearly not part of Southwest
Well, we
Washington.
don't trust you to deliberate
Okay,
what
but
should
you
be
don't-
done. We come to the government instead of coming to your orchestrated hearing.
That's not the way that this is now.
This is not an orchestrated.
This is a real thing.
Not this one. I'm talking about the past ones that you talked about, the 3 months. That's what I'm referring to, not this.
Okay.
I'm talking about the ones that you just referred to.
I just want to come back to your definition of community, and I think that, like what Robin talked about, community to me and what we're trying to really hit home, and our main point is that the community extends further than just the people of Southwest Washington and Vancouver and these 1,000 or 2,000 jobs you're going to be creating. The community extends to Portland, all of Oregon, all of California, the Pacific Ocean, all of these places that hold intrinsic value, economic, ecological, social benefit. That's what we're talking about here, is the benefits of the all-encompassing, of keeping the environment whole and not having this destructive, loud possibly dangerous oil terminal build. That's our main point.
I'd like to interject on the part of the scientific consultancy that has worked on the environmental study.
Okay.
We have brought in a number of groups. We brought in the EPA. We brought in the Department of Ecology of Washington, which I did identify in my statement.
Right.
We've talked to native populations in the area. All these people have been brought in and allowed to comment, and we brought it all together and summarized it in our report. We ask you to continue to be involved and to continue to discuss issues. We live in a democratic society. I mean, the problem we have, especially with like the deep ecology movement that comes out, is people aren't working with and in the system. If you don't participate effectively, if you don't effectively educate yourself on technology, the capabilities that we have to mitigate problems, then you could be causing more problems yourselves.
I agree with that. If you're not educated and you don't know the numbers and you don't understand what's really going on, but I implore you to look at your numbers again and see who they benefit and what your numbers are looking at and what your numbers, and I'm assuming, I'm making an assumption, and you can rebut this if you would like, that your numbers are more based on how much money you're gonna make, what it's gonna do to the community, supposed, the city limits of Vancouver, and I just, like I said earlier, I'm just questioning who benefits and who is really running home and, you know, getting this huge profit and making so much. And to me, formulating on your arguments, it seems like, and regardless of what your community members say, I think that you're getting the most benefit out of it, because I don't believe your housewife is going to be working in an oil terminal. Is she going to pay for her kids to go to care or anything like that? I doubt it. So who are you benefiting?
Right. We don't answer those questions. Yeah. We're here to talk about
facts.
The implications.
Right. Yeah,
right.
so about those facts,
about
those facts, in that document that you published that listed the environmental impacts, you specifically mentioned that there will be habitat disruption in Montana, in Idaho, in Spokane, in Vancouver, and really like across the Columbia. How does that factor into your understanding of the community? And how is that, you know, you guys limited it to only people who live inside of the Vancouver city limits? Are the people in Montana and Idaho not allowed to chime in with their concerns when it's their habitats that are being disrupted?
Of course, Governor Inslee would take into account the entire
but are you specifically?
Economies. But I'm trying to understand of who is truly being represented here in this this forum today, and I think that there are hierarchies outlined in the second order principle would state that we do have priorities here, and that the first order principle, and that we should be given consideration first, and only then that would be extended to outside groups.
So people in Montana are outside of your understanding of the community.
Do you believe that these things won't happen somewhere? Do you think that this is just, if it doesn't happen here, it's just not going to happen ever?
That's not.
I mean, you guys talked a lot about sustainable energy production. I'm for that as well. That is a good way to go into the future. However, it is not there yet. I mean, do any of you know how much energy it takes to create a solar panel? You can't use a solar panel to make a solar panel. It doesn't work. You need to have some sort of energy production to make these things that are sustainable. And right now, that's going to be oil, coal, gas, or nuclear dams. We could put in more dams.
We have
so why not invest in those projects instead of investing in a new gas project to help them get there? If they're not there yet, why are we spending money on helping them become more attainable?
It's more efficient to do it this way than it is, because these terminals are going to go in somewhere. They're either going to go up in northern Washington, they're going to go in northern California, or they're going to go in here.
So might as well have it in our backyard, is what you're saying.
If
it's going to happen somewhere.
Right, that's kind of yeah.
And on that note, let's be quite clear. You already have an oil terminal in Vancouver. We're talking about an upgrade. We're talking about expediting this to 3 times to what we are currently at.
Right, and the reason why
nobody here is saying that we can't, that we're not using oil. Maybe some people in our community are actually saying that. I am absolutely for that. We really aren't there yet though, but expediting that 3 times to like what we're at, using more than what we currently need, we are already at a place. We don't need to go farther than that. We can use what we have now without making it worse. You're adding jobs that are going to take away jobs. You're adding jobs that are going to be damaging to people. And you're putting the entire environment of not only just Washington, not only just Portland, but the entire Columbia River Basin at risk.
And to an extent, the entire globe. That's a stretch, but you talk about, no, if you talk about like all these families are suffering, they don't have jobs, but you're not even, like that's one family or two families or 5 families or 10 families, but you're not considering the thousands and millions of people in third world countries who live on the coast or live in countries where live in places that are susceptible to ocean rises, where in, let's say, 40 years, in this short term, 40 years, could be underwater. So you're not really considering the entire scope.
And if it's on a global scale, then why aren't you petitioning those countries that are far less efficient than us? Why are you here trying to down us when we're the ones who are creating this more efficient, stable economy?
We're not just fighting
Because we
you.
live here and we're taking a step in the right direction that hopefully.
You gotta start somewhere.
Well, you included America in your list of concerns, and Florida is truly at risk of becoming significant ocean
Louisiana.
rising.
Underwater.
Yeah, thank you.
So I've heard this mentioned a couple times, and with your statistics on the percentages of scientific opinions on the matter, and if this project, let's be clear, is not evoking climate change altogether. There's many factors, guys. This is not one, like you cannot say that this project is responsible. If you want to, we have a duty here to look beyond metaphors, okay? Hold on. We have a duty to look beyond metaphors that this project does not represent a battle of good and evil, okay? Where there's some sort. This is about jobs in Vancouver, and it's about using correct technology, the most advanced train systems today of rail cars and securities, and that investment is good for us. It's not about these. I don't even know what to call it.
That mindset can lead us down a dangerous path, though.
Because, like you said,
global warming is a tough, tricky
all new to
issue.
me now.
Global warming is a tough, tricky issue to handle. But the mindset, it's tough to say which straw broke the camel's back. But the mindset that we should just keep throwing straw on is not a good one.
Tragedy commons.
A question. So you've talked a lot about jobs in our community. Do you by chance know what the unemployment rate for Oregon and Washington currently is? How much do you really know?
5.1,
Which is better than national.
Yeah, so whatever we're doing here is.
So
The
you guys
national rate is
have
5.0.
spoken about coming in, creating these jobs, and making our economy here in Pacific Northwest stronger, giving us more jobs. When in reality, we're not even at our lowest point. We have gone through worse.